At least 2 people killed and 3 wounded in a shooting at an ice rink in the northeastern US town of Pawtucket. Police chief says the suspect is also dead, suggesting the incident may have stemmed from a family dispute.
Philippines takes strong exception to a statement by Chinese embassy in Manila that simmering diplomatic spat between 2 countries could result in millions of jobs being lost, calling it coercive.
Tariq Rahman will be sworn in as Bangladesh's new Prime Minister today. Interim leader Muhammad Yunus resigns to pave the way for the new elected government. India will be represented by Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla at the ceremony.
Israel moves to register West Bank land as state property, drawing international criticism. Government says it clarifies land rights, while Arab nations warn it could speed up annexation and violates international law.
India's merchandise trade deficit widened sharply to about $35 billion in January, up from $25 billion in December. The sharp rise was largely driven by higher imports of gold and silver and modest export growth.
Legendary actor Robert Duvall dies at the age of 95. He was best known for his roles in The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, and won an Oscar for Tender Mercies. The U.S. President Donald Trump has warned Iran of consequences if not making a deal.
And this is ahead of a second round of talks scheduled in Geneva. Aboard Air Force One en route to Washington, Trump said he would be involved in these negotiations indirectly. The latest talks, scheduled for Tuesday and mediated by Oman, follow repeated threats from Trump of military action against Tehran. First over Iran's deadly crackdown on anti-government protests, and then over the country's nuclear program.
I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. It's been typically, Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators, because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential, and we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. They want to make a deal.
Iran's foreign ministry said on Monday that the U.S. position on Tehran's nuclear program has moved towards a more realistic one.
A previous attempt at negotiations collapsed when Israel launched surprise strikes on Iran, beginning a 12-day war that Washington joined to bomb Iranian nuclear sites.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met with his Omani counterpart in Geneva a day ahead of the talks.
This while state media reported that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have begun a series of military exercises in the Strait of Hormuz. The broadcaster said the war games, the duration of which is not specified, aim to prepare the guards for potential security and military threats in the strait. This follows U.S. deployment of large naval forces in the area.
And amid this, Indian carrier Indigo has announced that flights to and from Tbilisi, Almaty, Baku, and Tashkent will remain impacted due to ongoing developments in the region around Iran and its associated airspace.
And there's more on this from our correspondent, our colleague Susan Tehrani, who sends us this report from New York.
All eyes are on U.S.-Iran nuclear talks set for Tuesday in Geneva, but diplomacy is unfolding under clear military pressure. Just ahead of these negotiations, the U.S. Air Force deployed 18 F-35A stealth fighters to bases in the Middle East, a clear and visible show of deterrence as tensions rise. Meanwhile, Senator Lindsey Graham, speaking from Israel, has warned against trusting Iran's leadership and stressed that military options must remain on the table if diplomacy fails, calling for regime change in Iran. So what to expect? A high-stakes test of leverage diplomacy backed by force, where the question isn't just whether there is a deal or not, but whether either side is willing to bend before tensions escalate further. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Shifting our focus to West Asia, as a fragile ceasefire hangs by a thread in Gaza, Netanyahu's top aide has warned Hamas to disarm in the next 60 days.
And do this or face renewed attacks. The ultimatum was given by Cabinet Secretary Yossi Fuchs, and he added that the 60-day period was only mandated upon U.S. President Donald Trump's direction. The new threat comes as Gaza gears up for the Islamic holy month of Ramadan.
Netanyahu's advisor also said that armed Hamas members will have to surrender everything, including their AK-47 rifles. The date for the start of the surrender process remains unclear, but reports say that it might begin with Thursday's Board of Peace conference.
Now, according to Fuchs, if the disarmament does not happen by the time elections begin in Israel, then the IDF will resume its offensive in the Gaza Strip. He added that as part of the disarmament campaign, the IDF will focus on dismantling any remaining Hamas tunnels in Gaza.
The warning comes even as Israel plans to restart a contentious land regulation process in the occupied West Bank, and this would allow Israel to gain control over large swathes of occupied territory.
Once Israel resumes the land registration process for a certain area, anyone claiming a piece of land must prove their ownership by submitting documents. And this paves the way for the resumption of settlement of land titles processes, which had been frozen since the Arab-Israeli War in 1967. The decision has since drawn widespread condemnation from Palestinians and world leaders. And while Europe is rearming, not with tanks, but with ideas once considered unthinkable.
Nuclear weapons. They are back in this conversation, with a nuclear-armed Russia looming as an ever-present threat, and now there is a growing uncertainty over the reliability of US security guarantees. European leaders intensifying this debate over whether the continent must strengthen its own nuclear arsenal to safeguard its own future. There's more in this next report. Take a look.
Transatlantic unity cracks under pressure. Old alliances fray. Europe is preparing for a far more dangerous future. Europe's nuclear debate has burst into the open and the shockwaves are spreading fast. From Warsaw to Stockholm, politicians and military planners are openly questioning whether Europe can survive without its own nuclear shield. For nearly 80 years now, Europe has relied on the American nuclear umbrella to deter potential adversaries. With America stationing its nuclear weapons in several European countries, but the extended deterrence has always been a delicate balance, depending on Washington's willingness to risk nuclear conflict to defend its allies. While the US and Russia have thousands of nuclear warheads each, in Europe, only France and Britain have atomic weapons. Now the calls are rising for the nukes. At the Munich Security Conference, the tone was unmistakable. European nuclear deterrence is no longer a taboo. French officials hinted their arsenal could serve a broader European role. German strategists discussed strategic autonomy. Sweden, long a champion of disarmament, is now openly debating whether neutrality without nuclear protection is a gamble it cannot afford.
Europe has to learn to become a geopolitical power. It was not part of our DNA. We conceived ourselves as a political construction to provide peace. We delivered. Second, a single market to provide growth and prosperity. We delivered. Now we have to reform it in this new order. In this new geopolitical environment, Europe has to become a geopolitical power.
The prospect of a European nuclear deterrent presents unprecedented challenges. Extending this umbrella across Europe raises complex questions of commitment, capability and control. If Washington hesitates, delays, or disengages, deterrence collapses in seconds. Developing an independent nuclear program would cost tens of billions of US dollars. It would shred decades of non-proliferation norms. It is bound to Russia. It could trigger a chain reaction across the continent. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
At least 3 people have been killed, including the suspect at a shooting in the US state of Rhode Island.
And the shooting happened at an ice rink in the town of Pawtucket, and reports say that the shooting happened when a youth hockey game was being played. At least 3 people were wounded and in critical condition. Authorities said the initial investigation suggested that the shooting was targeted and may have been a family dispute. No details were immediately shared on the identities of the victims.
So what I can tell you right now is the Pawtucket police received a call at about 2:28, 2:30 this afternoon that we had an active shooter at Lynch Arena. Upon arrival, police were met with several people obviously inside the arena, and there was 2 casualties within the arena. The suspect was confirmed as one of those casualties. Later on, we learned that another casualty from the shooting was at the hospital, that they succumbed to their injuries after being at the hospital, and there is 3 additional victims at the hospital that all are in critical condition at this time.
Mass shootings are common in the United States, where access to weapons is relatively easy. In 2025, there were more than 400 mass shootings in the US. Mass shootings are defined as incidents where 4 or more people are shot or killed, not including the shooter. The Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese refused help for 34 Australian citizens related to suspected Islamic State jihadists.
And this as they tried to return home from a Syrian detention camp. Albanese said that the government will not repatriate people from Syria, and any of the citizens who made it back to Australia would face the full force of the law if they had committed crimes. The Australians released from a camp to members of their families failed to reach capital Damascus because of poor coordination with the Syrian authorities, forcing them back into custody.
Today, we at the Roj Camp Administration handed over 11 families, 34 people of Australian nationality, to their families. This is the first trip in 2026. Previously, we carried out many trips through coordination between countries and the foreign relations in the Kurdish Autonomous Administration. However, on this trip, we handed them over to their families.
The ROJ camp holds over 2,000 people from 40 different nationalities. The majority of them are women and children. Thousands believed to be linked to IS terrorists have been held at ROJ and second camp, Al-Hol, since the group lost its final territorial foothold in Syria in 2019. Now, Syrian government forces seized swathes of northern Syria from the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces in January before agreeing to a ceasefire on the 29th of January.
We'll be right back after a very short break right now. Stay tuned. The British government has abandoned controversial plans to delay 30 council elections in England. We'll get you all the details on that story after a very short break.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back. Well, let's begin with a story where mounting piles of uncollected garbage are becoming an increasingly common sight across neighborhoods in the Cuban capital.
As a severe fuel shortage cripples municipal waste collection services, local authorities say that the lack of diesel has left many garbage trucks idle. disrupting regular pickup schedules and allowing waste to accumulate on sidewalks and street corners. Residents report strong odors, growing infestations of insects and rodents, and heightened health concerns.
There's a lot of trash, and now, with the oil problem, even more so. I suggest that young people who don't work, or prisoners, be put to work collecting trash. Something. Because the trash doesn't stop. And now with this oil problem, even less so. Well, that's my understanding. I don't know, because the truth is that with that, we're not going to get rid of the viruses that are out there. We're never going to get rid of them.
Spain has announced that it channels humanitarian assistance in the form of food and essential health products to Cuba through United Nations. The announcement comes after Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Alvarez and Cuban counterpart Bruno Rodriguez discussed the current situation in Havana. Last week, Mexico has sent 800 tons of humanitarian aid to Cuba, delivered on 2 Mexican Navy ships responding to Cuba's deteriorating situation.
The crisis stems from long-standing energy shortages that have grown far worse this year, disrupting transportation, electricity generation, and other vital public services across the island. Cuba has relied heavily on Venezuela as its main supplier of oil, but deliveries have effectively stopped following last month's capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro by US forces and the subsequent moves by the US to cut off oil and fuel shipments to Cuba. United Nations has expressed deep concern over the rapidly worsening situation, saying it is alarmed by the humanitarian and socio-economic impacts of fuel crisis. The British government has abandoned controversial plans to delay 30 council elections in England.
Now, the U-turn comes after Nigel Farage-led Reform UK launched a legal battle questioning its legality. The row centres on a plan approved by local government Secretary Steve Reid to postpone the ballots until 2027. The government argued the delay would help implement a major local government reorganisation, as restructuring would see some local authorities abolished before their term expires. But before the hearing on case filed by Reform UK, the government withdrew its original decision. In a letter to council letters, Reid confirmed that the government has withdrawn the plan.
Reform UK leader Nigel Farage declared victory on social media. He wrote, I quote him here, "We took this Labour government to court and won." Farage accused Prime Minister Starmer of trying to stop 4.6 million people from voting, claiming the plan was clearly unlawful. The UK is holding local body elections on the 7th of May. 136 local governments in the UK will go to polls. These include all the London Borough Councils, county councils, district councils and others. Overall, more than 5,000 local government seats will be heading to the hustings.
Now, France has come under the scanner for a 5% increase in physical violence and homicides last year.
However, this is not all. It has now garnered a reputation for becoming the crypto kidnapping capital of the world. As digital currency gains importance globally, wrench attacks have emerged as a growing menace. These are physical coercion events where an adversary uses violence or confinement to compel a victim to surrender access to their cryptocurrency assets.
Now, France recorded 19 wrench attacks in 2025, which is the highest for any country worldwide. Even as we are in mid-February, it has already seen 8 instances of crypto-related abductions, while up to 80 persons are likely to go on trial for wrench attacks in France soon. The lack of deterrence is perceived as a key issue, with no conviction recorded in these kinds of cases until now.
The crypto sector in France was shaken when crypto startup co-founder David Ballant and his wife were kidnapped in January last year. The ransom demand was $10 million in cryptocurrency. While negotiations with the kidnappers were on for over 48 hours, one of Ballant's fingers was severed. And the couple was subsequently freed by the police, which took 10 suspects into custody.
Paris Bayo, a French-Moroccan citizen who was the alleged mastermind behind these crimes, was detained in Morocco in June 2025. Subsequently, the French government announced that leading crypto entrepreneurs and their families will receive enhanced security.
But the general public is equally under threat. A recent crime shocked one and all. On February 4th, a 35-year-old woman serving as a judicial magistrate and her mother, they were kidnapped. The kidnapper threatened the magistrate's partner to pay ransom in cryptocurrency. However, they managed to escape after spending 30 hours in a garage. 6 persons have been arrested in connection with this crime.
Now, there are huge concerns over the use of leaked user data in these attacks. For instance, in January this year, hackers stole data of 50,000 crypto users from crypto tax platform Waltio. Now, as per reports, the stolen data was directly linked to at least 3 kidnappings.
The other worrying aspect here is that most of these crimes are being carried out by those who are minors or in their 20s at the behest of criminals based outside France. They are typically hired via Telegram, the messaging app, and other messaging apps, and they are paid a few thousand euros each for carrying out these sort of crimes.
Now, this crisis resonates globally as well. As per a report from blockchain security firm Certic, 72 wrench attacks were recorded last year, up from 41 in 2024, and thus marking a 75% increase. The seriousness of this evidence from this 2025 witnessing 25 kidnappings and 3 murders pertain to cryptocurrency. The quantum of losses was also huge, with over $40.9 million being stolen. Europe accounted for 40% of these incidents.
As cryptocurrency-related kidnappings continue unabated in France, pressure is growing on Emmanuel Macron's government to enhance the punishment for the abductors. All right, viewers, it's time now for a very short break, but this is World DNA. We will be back with more details, more reports. French President Emmanuel Macron and First Lady Brigitte Macron have arrived in Mumbai. They are here in India. They are on an official 3-day visit to India, which will conclude on the 19th of February. What's on the cards? What's the day looking like? We'll bring you all the details.
Tariq Rahman is set to be sworn in as the new Prime Minister of Bangladesh today ahead of the oath-taking ceremony. Muhammad Yunus formally announced his resignation as Chief Advisor and end of Bangladesh's interim government. We'll get you all the details on the other side. Keep watching WION World is One.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
And welcome to a brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of southern states.
By blending the special stories, the breaking alerts, and the culture developments as well.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is One. Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime is your front row seat to darkness. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Welcome back. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss on this side of the show. Thanks so much for being with us. Let's start with the headlines.
Donald Trump says he will soon decide whether to send more weapons to Taiwan after Chinese president warned against it. U.S. president emphasizes he has a good relationship with Chinese leader and will talk to him about it.
I think they want to make a deal. I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. They want to make a deal.
Donald Trump warns Iran of potential consequences if a deal isn't reached ahead of US-Iran talks in Geneva. Says he will be involved indirectly and believes Tehran wants a deal.
Donald Trump urges Kiev to quickly reach a deal with Moscow ahead of U.S. brokered talks in Geneva today, saying Ukraine better come to the table fast, as Zelensky warns of more Russian attacks.
French President Macron arrives in Mumbai, beginning his 3-day visit to India. India and France look to further upgrade defense, trade and technology ties as PM Modi hosts Macron for a bilateral meeting in Mumbai today.
Philippines takes strong exception to a statement by a Chinese embassy in Manila that simmering diplomatic spat between two countries could result in millions of jobs being lost, calling it coercive.
34 Australian relatives of suspected Islamic State jihadists returned to Syria's detention camp after Kurdish authorities released them. Australian PM Albanese refuses assistance.
Imran Khan's sons say they fear for their father's deteriorating health in Pakistan's Adiala jail. Seek permission to visit the former Prime Minister, urging authorities to grant access after more than 2 years.
Spot gold prices slip below $5,000 per ounce, while silver also falls roughly 3% to around $74 an ounce on Tuesday. And this is due to profit booking after recent gains, a firmer US dollar and mixed macro cues.
Australia hopes of reaching the T20 World Cup Super 8 stage are all but over after losing to Sri Lanka. Pathum Nissanka's unbeaten 100 helps co-hosts defeat them by 8 wickets. And well, French President Emmanuel Macron and the First Lady Brigitte Macron have arrived in Mumbai.
They are on an official 3-day visit to India, which will conclude on the 19th of February. And the couple was received at the airport by Maharashtra Governor Acharya Devvrat and Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. The visit marks Macron's 4th visit to the country, to India, at the invitation of Prime Minister Modi.
Mumbai's Bandrawali Sea Link lit up to welcome the French president. It was lit with pictures of the two leaders. Macron's first visit was in 2018, followed by his attendance at the 2023 G20 summit and his 2024 state visit as a chief guest for India's 75th Republic Day.
Prime Minister Modi will travel to Mumbai today, where he will meet Macron. The two leaders will hold bilateral engagements at Lok Bhavan. During these engagements, they will review the progress made in the India-France strategic partnership. Their discussions will focus on cementing the strategic partnership even further and diversifying it into new and emerging areas. They will also exchange views on issues of regional and global importance. Later in the day, the two leaders will inaugurate the India-France Year of Innovation 2026 and address a gathering of business leaders, startups, researchers and other innovators from both countries.
Following their Mumbai engagements, the next day, the delegation will travel to New Delhi to attend the India AI Impact Summit 2026, being held at Bharat Mandapam. This event marks the first global AI summit hosted in the Global South.
And shifting focus to Bangladesh, Tariq Rahman is set to be sworn in as the new Prime Minister of the country.
And now, on the eve of the oath-taking ceremony, Muhammad Yunus formally announced his resignation as chief advisor and end of Bangladesh's interim government. And this marked the end of an 18-month transitional period following widespread political upheaval. In his farewell address, Yunus declared that country has entered a new journey for its democracy after overseeing what he described as a credible national election.
Above all, we organized a festive, free, fair, peaceful, transparent and credible national election through which the people regained their right to vote. This election is not merely a process of transferring power. It marks the beginning of a new journey for Bangladesh's democratic system, the birth of a new Bangladesh.
Yunus returned from self-imposed exile to head the transitional government after a mass uprising toppled former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina. He described Hasina's removal as a day of great liberation, saying the country's youth had freed Bangladesh from what he called the grip of a demon.
Bangladesh held its first elections last week following 2025 uprising. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party secured a sweeping victory with its leader Tariq Rahman set to be sworn in as Prime Minister.
The newly elected members of parliament will take oath around 11:30 a.m. local time and then at around 4 p.m. in the afternoon, President Mohammad Shahabuddin will administer the oath of office to Tariq Rahman and his initial cabinet. In a departure from tradition, the ceremony is being held at the National Parliament complex to accommodate a massive guest list of approximately 1,200 attendees.
Tariq Rahman has invited world leaders to attend his swearing-in, including heads of state of India, China, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Turkey, UAE, and other regional and global partners. India's Prime Minister will not be attending the event, signing prior engagements, but Speaker of Lok Sabha Om Birla will be there on his behalf. Now, former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's sister has rejected medical board reports suggesting improvements in his eyesight.
Well, the examination was done by 2 doctors. This happened on Sunday, following the Supreme Court's order to allow a detailed medical checkup of the 73-year-old's eyes. Imran Khan's personal physician said he could neither confirm nor deny the assessment, as Pakistan authorities have not granted him access to the imprisoned former premier.
Dr. Asim Yusuf made the remarks in a video message posted on X. Yusuf said prison doctors briefed him by phone on Sunday about an improvement in his condition and the treatment he had received since late January.
Referring to this video, Imran Khan's sister said that now the family is even more concerned and worried and stressed. They demand the 73-year-old be urgently transferred to Shifa International Hospital, Islamabad, and be examined by specialists under Dr. Yusuf's supervision in the presence of his family.
Alima Khanum said they will gather outside Adiala jail, expecting the authorities to allow them to meet Imran Khan. Now, Tuesday is one of the 2 court-mandated days for meeting the former Pakistan Prime Minister.
This as the opposition has decided to extend its sit-in at the Parliament House till Tuesday. The opposition alliance, TTAP, began its protest on Friday for the fulfillment of its demands for Imran Khan's treatment and examination. The Philippines is reporting nearly 114,000 adolescent mothers, with a troubling rise in pregnancies among girls under 15.
And meanwhile, teen births among older adolescents are declining. The Commission on Population and Development say the country has recorded over 138,000 mothers aged 10 to 19. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority shows births among girls aged 15 to 19 are gradually declining, but the pregnancies among those aged 10 to 14 are rising. More than 3,600 girls under 15 gave birth in 2024, which is higher than previous years.
Officials say this is where alarm bells are ringing. Experts point to growing digital exposure, poverty, and limited access to reproductive health services as contributing factors. Many communities still struggle with open conversations about sexuality under the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012. Minors generally need parental consent to access modern family planning services. Teen parents say sex education often comes too late.
Authorities say 84% of local governments have set up youth centers, but officials admit that establishing facilities is not enough and functionality matters. The government is now intensifying awareness campaigns, calling for society response to address one of the country's most pressing social challenges. Now, in Indonesia, mini-sized food has become a major trend.
After going viral on social media, miniature versions of food are gaining popularity on the streets as well. 44-year-old Darren Mahmood Aliuddin found the inspiration while creating miniature versions of traditional rooms and furniture for TikTok videos. His mini food videos went viral and even sparked a demand from real customers. And now he's selling them on a miniature street food cart.
It started out as content that described me as a quanky seller, but it was only for making content and not actually for sale. The children around me at that time were carrying small change, and many mothers and fathers ended up wanting to buy the mini quanky. They said, "It's okay, we'll pay for it." And I jokingly suggested that they buy them for 2,000 rupiah per serving. That became the base price for the quanky.
Complete with a tiny stove and dining tables and chairs, the cart sells a mini version of quanky, a popular Chinese fusion dish of tofu stuffed with meat. While a life-size bowl of the dish sells for typically around 10,000 rupiah, that's about 60 cents, the mini version is priced at 1/5 of that. The food has proven particularly attractive to school children.
Dua. Oh, nambah emang enak. Kenapa Farel pengen? Farel, kenapa pengen?
On the other hand, adults appreciate the creativity and the uniqueness of this concept.
I thought it's a bit strange and funny, but when I tried it, it tasted the same as normal. It surprised me.
Because I enjoy tasting or trying a little bit of everything. In my opinion, it's more like children's food and like toys for children.
All right, time now to slip into a very short break, but there's more lined up on the other side. 2021 champions Australia are on the verge of a group stage exit. The Aussies must win their last group game and expect Zimbabwe to lose their remaining games. This and a lot more lined up. Come right back.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back. And now let's go to other stories. Ireland's Minister for Public Service Reforms and Digitalisation, Jack Chambers, has praised India's leadership in shaping the global AI agenda.
Well, speaking to WION's Assistant Editor of Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal, in New Delhi, Chambers called the AI Impact Summit 2026 a powerful platform connecting the world. He said artificial intelligence will shape the future for decades and must be guided as a force for good. Chambers also highlighted shared priorities between India and Ireland, especially using AI to strengthen healthcare and public services.
You're coming at a time when India is hosting the AI Summit. AI looks like to be a future that's going to shape everyone's life. How do you see India hosting the AI Summit? And how do you see India-Ireland cooperation conversation on this topic?
Well, look, we really welcome the fact that that India is hosting a summit. It's connecting the world more generally. That kind of multilateral approach is something we support and welcome, and it's great to see a number of ministerial delegations here. AI will shape the world and the future for decades to come, and we know the priority for India, like Ireland, is how we can best shape it for citizens across our countries, and that means in terms of healthcare, different public services, and that's something as a key objective for Ireland, but also embedding business and enterprise. And we know that the tech and digital ecosystem that exists in India and the opportunities that will emerge from AI.
You mentioned about free trade agreement. Finally, the mother of all trade deal has been announced. What's the view like from Ireland, from Dublin in terms of this trade deal?
And also a 90% increase in trade between Ireland and India in the last 10 years, and that was in the absence of a free trade agreement. The fact that the EU expects over the next 5 to 7 years trade between the European Union and India to double shows what's possible in terms of deepening the trade links between our two countries. We know India is a really popular place for many Irish businesses now to start and commence their deepening of links and embedding themselves here, but also for many India companies are looking to Ireland to set up operations and use Ireland as a place to trade within the European Union. And our people-to-people links are strong. We have a shared perspective on many policies and opportunities in terms of the life science sector, pharma, and digital as well. So I expect the further deepening of economic integration to come from this trade agreement. And
Global tech giants are seeing steep market losses this year. Investors are rethinking AI spending and demand near-term returns.
And this correction is rippling across the world, and India's tech sector is no exception. The Nifty Tech Index has fallen 32% from its late 2025 peak, with the sector contributing nearly 7% to India's GDP. The slowdown raises concerns about its broader impact on the economy. Take a look at our next report for more on this.
The Indian tech sector has long been the crown jewel of the country's export economy, but it is currently weathering its most severe market downturn since the 2008 financial crisis. The Nifty Tech Index continued its downward spiral this week, marking a 32% drop from its peak in late 2025. This historic slide has been fueled by a perfect storm of technological anxiety and macroeconomic headwinds that are forcing a fundamental reevaluation of the industry's future. The primary catalyst is the perceived threat of artificial intelligence. Brokerages have flagged a structural shift, noting that AI-driven automation is directly challenging the traditional manpower-led billing model. There is growing concern that AI could lead to revenue deflation as tasks like coding and testing become faster and automated. Beyond technology, the sector is grappling with rising employee costs, and the catch-up to build AI capabilities are eating into operating margins. Global clients, particularly in the US and Europe, are delaying large discretionary projects as they reassess their own tech budgets in a highly disruptive business environment. The implications for India's broader economy are significant. The tech sector contributes to nearly 7% of India's GDP and is a primary engine for high-value employment. A prolonged slowdown threatens to dampen urban consumption and reduce the multiplier effect that the industry has on real estate and services. While brokerages suggest that valuations are hitting a floor, the emerging consensus is that the era of easy double-digit growth is now over. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Now, Germany is moving closer to tougher limits on children's use of social media as lawmakers from the center-left Social Democratic Party of Germany join their conservative coalition partners.
And they're joining in calling for a formal ban for children under 14. The proposal has been backed by senior Social Democrat Lars, who is also deputy to German Chancellor Friedrich Merz.
And speaking to local media, Clinton Beale said Germany could no longer avoid clear rules. He said, and I'm quoting, "Protecting young people from the flood of hatred and violence on social media is a top priority."
A discussion paper signed by Social Democrat lawmakers and regional politicians sets out how the restrictions would work. The paper also calls for youth-friendly versions of social media platforms for teenagers aged 14 to 16 with features such as algorithm-driven feeds and automatic video play disabled. The proposals are aimed at major platforms including Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok and YouTube.
Now, the move follows a separate proposal from Merz conservatives who want a broader ban for under-16s, which is due to be debated at their party conference this week. With both sides of the governing coalition now supporting restrictions, pressure is now growing on the federal government to push ahead with new rules. Germany's federal system makes that difficult. Media regulation is the responsibility of individual states, meaning they must first agree on a common national approach. The government has already appointed a special commission to examine online risks to young people, and its findings are expected later this year.
Legendary actor Robert Duvall has died at the age of 95. His wife confirmed the news.
In a statement to the media, his wife, Luciana Duvall, wrote, and I'm quoting, "To the world, he was an Academy Award-winning actor, a director, a storyteller. To me, he was simply everything. His passion for his craft was matched only by his deep love for characters, a great meal, and holding court." Duvall won an Oscar for Best Actor and was nominated 6 other times. Duvall won his Academy Award in 1983 for playing a washed-up country singer in Tender Mercies. Over his 6 decades-long career, he managed to shine in both lead and supporting roles and eventually became a director. His most memorable characters included the soft-spoken loyal lawyer, Tom Hagen, in the first 2 installments of The Godfather. He was one of the voice of reason in the Corleone family.
All right, time for news from the ongoing T20 World Cup. 2021 champions Australia are on the verge of a group stage exit.
Now, so how did Australia land up in this situation? Of course, that's the question everyone's asking. After a shock defeat to Zimbabwe, Australia faced Sri Lanka in their penultimate group stage match. Having recovered from injury, Captain Mitchell Marsh walked back into the team. He formed a lethal opening partnership with Travis Head as Australia looked set for a big total. Marsh struck a 27 ball 54, while Head smashed 56 off 29 as the pair added 104 runs for the first wicket. But Australia lost the plot after the duo fell in back-to-back overs. Australia, who had scored 110 in the first 10 overs, managed just 71 in the final 60 deliveries. Apart from Marsh and Head, only Josh Inglis and Glenn Maxwell reached double figures as Australia finished on 181.
Dushan Himanta was Sri Lanka's most successful bowler with figures of 3 for 37. Now, the chase wasn't as simple as Sri Lanka eventually made it look. They lost Kushal Perera in the second over, but Kushal Mendes and Pathum Nissanka stitched together a formidable partnership to put Sri Lanka in control. The Australian bowlers rarely troubled the pair, who kept finding the boundary at will. They added a 97-run stand in 65 balls before Mendes became Marcus Stoinis' second wicket of the night. Nissanka, however, carried on and never allowed the momentum to shift back in Australia's favour. He became the first centurion of this World Cup and the first Sri Lankan to score 2 T20I centuries. He smashed 5 sixes and 10 fours to remain unbeaten on 100 off 52 balls. Sri Lanka completed the chase with 2 overs to spare in Canby.
Australia have now won just 1 match so far in this tournament, and for Australia to join Sri Lanka in the Super 8s, they must win their final group game, and Zimbabwe must lose both of their remaining matches. All right, with that, we call a wrap to World Day for today. We leave you with some climate stories making headlines across the world. Stay tuned. News and updates follow on the other side. You're watching WION. What is